Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. We were recently contacted by Diamondback Firearms. They wanted to know if we wanted to review a couple of their firearms. And of course, we're always looking to bring new things to the channel, so we said yes. And they've sent us two, and I'm just going to briefly show this one. They sent us the new AM2, which is the next generation, and we'll be doing a separate video on this. I'll set that aside. But what we're going to talk about today is this one that they sent us, which is the Gen 4 DB9. So we're going to start out by showing that we do have an unloaded DB9 that we're going to handle. This is actually a pretty cool firearm because it's tiny. If I look at it, it really does. It fits on the palm of my hand. If I had the flush magazine in it, it's thin, it's small, it's light. So you might be thinking, oh great, another little pocket 380. Except it's not a 380. This is a 9mm in a size format that you would typically find a 380. It's also fairly easy to use, easy to shoot well, and easy to work with. So what would you use a gun like this for? This is a deep conceal gun, something where you're going to put it in a pocket, especially if you're wearing like dress pants, ankle. You can use it inside the waistband, of course, if you want something that's real small and comfortable. So these guns have become very, very popular, and this DB9 from Diamondback has done a good job entering that arena, and we'll talk about some of the features of it. You'll see why. Let's start with capacity and the dimensions. It comes with one 6-round magazine. This one has a pinky extender on it. When you put the magazine in, if you've got an average size hand like me, you actually get a full 3-finger grip. If you've got a larger hand like Hammer, it might end up being down in that area, but you're still going to get pretty much a 3-finger grip. But you might be saying, yeah, I hate pinky extenders, those things annoy me. It comes with a flush base plate that you could easily put on it. So if you don't like the pinky extender, you're not stuck with it. And one cool thing about their manual covers their various pistols, but it's got a lot of exploded diagrams and pictures. Right there I popped open to the magazine. So if you wanted to change it, it's going to be easy to read their manual. You're not going to have to spend 20 hours searching for how to do it. The manual that comes with it is actually really good and would show you how to do it. It also comes with this little pistol rug, so that you can carry the gun around, because of course we know that if you're going to take it to the range and somebody actually sees it, they'll immediately turn to stone because it's a hideous, scary thing like a gun. So you get this little rug, you can put it in and take it off to the range. So it comes with a lot of cool features. You might be thinking, yeah, a lot of guns come with that kind of thing. This gun MSRP is for $269. What you're going to find as I go through this, there's a lot of features on this gun that are not present on guns in that price territory. So what you've got here is a very nice little gun with a lot of cool features that's not going to break the bank. From a dimension standpoint, it's 13.4 ounces with the empty flush mag. Now by comparison, a PM9, which is a very small car, like this guy here, is 15.9 ounces with its empty mag. And the Glock 43 is 17.99 ounces with an empty mag. So really, really, really light. And that sometimes is the big difference between being able to carry it comfortably depending on what you're wearing, or not being able to carry it all in that particular dress. It's 5.73 inches long. It's 4 inches tall with the flush mag, 4.5 inches tall with the pinky extender mag, and it's 0.89 inches thick. Now the slide is 0.81 inches, but of course you got a few things sticking out that puff it up just a little bit. And one of the things sticking out that adds to the size is one of the new features that comes with the Gen 4 is an actual slide stop. And a lot of guns in this size territory don't have a slide stop. They lock back, and the only way to rechamber them would be to either put a loaded mag in it or pull the mag and then slingshot it. This one does have a slide stop, so you can lock the slide back on your own or release it on your own. They have recessed the magazine release. One of the problems you get with these guns is when you get a hold of them, it's easy to squeeze the magazine release by accident in your grip, drop the mag, which of course if you're in the middle of something, that's not going to end well. Now there is a drawback to that. It's a little hard to get it. You almost have to kind of work to get it with your thumb in a grip. Like I got it that time, I can't get it this time. You can of course reliably get it that way. So the trade-off you've got is a real easy to use mag release on a small gun like this is convenient, but you might drop the mag by accident in your grip. This one, I think they've got a good happy median between being easy to get to, but also not accidentally dropping it. And even the slide stop has a little ridge around it to catch it to kind of help prevent your thumb from accidentally getting on it and locking the slide back while you're shooting. From a sights perspective, it's got really good 3-dot sights, real easy to see. They happen to be Glock compatible, so you can replace any of these sights with any of the Glock sights that might be out there, which is kind of convenient. A lot of these guns, when you get into these small guns territory, they either have poor sights, difficult to see, or even gutter sights, or they're bespoke sights, and there's not any manufacturer that wants to spend time to make sights for them. This, you're going to be able to just pick any Glock sights, TFX, or whatever else it is that you want. And it also disassembles similar to a Glock. Little pull-down levers here, which I'll get into that when I actually get into the disassembly of it. So wrapping up the specs before we move on to other features, it has a 3.1-inch barrel, and it's stainless steel, and that's another unique thing about this gun versus many others in this territory, especially this price territory, stainless steel construction. So you're not going to have a problem with this thing rusting out on you. They've changed a few things about it. It is a Gen 4. They've changed a few things from the prior generation. One of the things is the grip texture. They've changed this quite a bit. It's a little bit different pattern. It's really nice looking. I don't have a prior generation to show you, but I've got a picture of a prior generation. I'll pop it up on the screen while I'm talking so you can see what the grip difference is. From a functional perspective, either grip's going to do the job. But if you're trying to figure out, is the gun that I'm buying right now a Gen 4 or a prior generation, it's quite easy just looking at the grip. It's also got some texture at the front of the trigger and a little bit of a curve, a little bit of a bevel here, so that you can just kind of smoothly get in there. But if you've got larger hands and you like to have your finger up on the trigger guard, you can. There's no replaceable back straps, which is very common in this size gun, but it does have a nice beaver tail. So when you get up in there, it's a little harder to get slide bit by it. These little guns do tend to like to bite. This one's going to be a little less prone to it with that beaver tail protecting you. It has a nice curved trigger, and let's talk about the trigger because that's one of the things that they've changed in this generation. It's significantly lighter. So we pull the magazine out to make it a little easier to do this. There's the take-up. It's a real light take-up. Now the trigger does break at the back, so if you have larger hands, that'll be a little bit more difficult to work with, with the size of the gun and your finger sticking way out. But if you've got average size hands, you're going to have no trouble at all. But we'll bring the trigger back. It's got a very short, crisp break, and it comes in around the 7-pound territory, which is actually really nice for this size. There's the reset, so it's actually got quite a nice reset, and you're right on the wall, and then the break again. So they've done a really good job with the trigger on this, and it's kind of hard to do nice triggers in this type of gun, but they've accomplished that. Now there's a few others that have the nice triggers like this, and they're significantly more expensive. Now, it's not a super short, tight break like a PPQ, but you wouldn't expect that in this size category. The other thing they've changed on it is the logo. And that's right here, so you'll also be able to tell by looking at the logo whether or not you've got a later generation or newer one. The prior logo was kind of a diamond with DB on it. And show you the other side of the gun as well. And while I'm looking at it, I see some texturing, or actually some slide serrations at the front and slide serrations at the rear. And they're actually quite easy to get a hold of and quite functional. You find that the slide on this is actually pretty easy to rack. A lot of these small guns can be difficult to rack. This one's easy to get a hold of, whether you're getting it from the front or the rear, and it's easy to rack. As you take something like, let's say this little car P380, and the slide is very difficult to rack, and it's kind of indeterminate. You can't really feel when you've gotten to the back. I'm sorry, this one's a CW. They actually even has a tendency to pop out of your hand. This one, you can get a hold of it well, you can tell when it's at the back, you can tell when you've cycled it far enough, and it's really solid and easy to work with. So I'm finding this gun to be easy to work with, which a lot of these little ones can be, twitchy. This one it worked well. It was actually easy to shoot it well for me with average size hands. Had to work at it more than you would a full size gun. Now Hammer had a little more trouble shooting it well because of his larger hands, but at the same time he was able to shoot it well. He was able to use this if it were a defensive scenario, he had no trouble working with it. Another change they've made is the ammo. The prior generation was very picky. You pretty much had a choice between 115 and 124, and that was probably about it. This one, they've lifted all the ammo restrictions. Now, the prior generation still has all the ammo restrictions, so what I'm talking about is part of this generation. But you can now use the 147 grain if that's what you want to use, and they are now plus P rated. Again, just this generation, they're plus P rated. Still not plus P plus, but plus P, which a lot of times people that are using these shorter little barrels will want the plus P to get a little bit extra velocity, and now you can do it. Now, this particular one, when it arrived, had a little tag on it that said not plus P rated. And you may find that the very first Gen 4s that you see don't have the markings. They're going to change the roll marks and stop putting those tags on them. If it's a Gen 4, according to what I've been told by Diamondback, it is plus P rated regardless of whether it's got the little tag on it. But of course, if you're concerned, you would always want to contact Diamondback and just verify, but that's the information that was given by them. And that's kind of a big deal for a lot of people. Ammo sensitivity and plus P rating can be a big issue on short barrel guns. So let's go ahead and take this thing apart and show you the internals. It comes apart like a Glock and most of the others. Make sure it's unloaded, pull the trigger, kind of give it a little squeeze, and pop it apart. So let's talk about the frame first. The first thing you're going to notice is there's dual trigger bars. So when I pull the trigger, it's actuated from both sides. What that makes a difference in is the crispness and the consistency of the trigger. If you have just a single trigger bar on one of these pivoting sears like this one, it can have a tendency to want to torque and make the trigger kind of mushy and not consistent. So with the dual trigger bars, you get a nice consistent trigger. They've also added a steel insert at the front here for rigidity, and that doesn't exist on the prior generation. It's got nice robust guides, front and rear. There's the pin for the drop safety mechanism. So overall, it's a well-constructed and solid, and of course all the guides are all metal. It's a well-constructed and solid frame, and it's well-machined. It's smooth, everything is nicely done in the way it should be. And that carries over into looking at the slide as well. Steel captive spring and guide rod. And of course this is a striker fired gun, not a hammer fired gun. Here's your stainless steel 3.1 inch barrel with a polished feed ramp. And we did not find this to be ammo sensitive when we were firing it. We were using basically Winchester white box and it had no trouble with it. And when you look at it, look at the rifling and everything's just well done. It's a well done little gun, smooth. Now of course the markings you're seeing here are just from running it. It's kind of got this matte finish. But because it's stainless steel, you very likely could polish it up if you wanted it to be shiny. You could likely do that. But it does come with this matte finish. And I do like that polished feed ramp. When we look at the rest of the slide, there's the piston for the drop safety, so it is a drop safe weapon. And again, like this, everything is just well machined. The polish for the ramp, the stripper ramp, and just well done. So you're getting a lot of good quality gun for not a very high price, and a lot of features that you would not often find in this territory, either from a price or a size perspective, and just really well done. So I just noticed that I made a mistake. I didn't center the guide rod, and that's easy to do on any of these guns. I mean, I've done it to Glocks before too. You have to make sure that you get the guide rod centered before you put it back together, or it'll kind of hang up, but it was easy to fix. Again, that wasn't a defect in the gun, that's just a mistake that I made doing it. So one last thing you're going to run into is, okay, I got a new generation, I got new magazines, and I'm not going to be able to get magazines, I'm not going to be able to get holsters. Well, they've kind of taken care of that too. The magazines to the current generation and the prior generation are all cross-compatible, so they'll work up and down the line, kind of like Glocks tend to do. And they've worked with a number of holster manufacturers. They sent us they randomly picked one. They sent us this one. This one is a Custer Farms Tack holster, and it's a leather holster that the gun fits nicely in. But if leather's not your thing, you wanted, Kydex or one of the others, there's a long list of manufacturers that they've teamed up with for holsters that will be available when the gun releases. The gun should be available in March territory. You may see it online right now in like Gallery of Guns, but any of your Diamondback retailers would carry this gun. And Guns Galore, you know, our friends over at Guns Galore, where they sent these to for us to pick them up, is a full-line Diamondback retailer. So if you're in Central Florida area and you're wanting to get your hands on one of these, you know, hit up Guns Galore, because I'm sure they'll be able to help you out and get one. And if you don't like leather for this type of gun, you want a pocket holster, you want a Kydex holster, you know, check out all the different manufacturers. So they've solved one of the adoption issues you come up with a brand new gun like this is, yeah, I'd like to get that gun, but I don't want to be stuck with one mag. How am I going to carry it? I can't get holsters. Taken care of. So they've thought through the process, which I wish more manufacturers would do. The last two things I'll mention for wrapping up is, I'm showing you a black one. Like the prior generation, it'll be available in a variety of colors, flat dark earth, OD green, kind of a purple camo. So you'll be able to get different variations of it right from the factory. And the only other thing I kind of didn't mention, I talked about shooting it, that it was, you know, for a gun this size, easy to shoot well. The recoil is stout. And that is typical of something that's shooting a 9mm that's this small and this light. But it wasn't bad. It was manageable. But it isn't going to be something that you're going to take this out for a fun day at the range and dump 200 rounds through it. But unlike other small guns that I've shot in this territory, it didn't leave me hurting. So you could shoot it comfortably through several mags, you know, do your practice, zero it in, or in a defensive scenario shoot it. You're going to be able to control it. But it's not, you know, it's not like you're going to be out shooting a 22. But beyond that, thank you Diamondback for sending us this. Look forward to our review on the AM2. And also Diamondback has told us that we can hold on to these as long as we need to, so we're going to do some comparisons between this and other guns in its territory, so you can see how they compare side by side. But right now we'll go ahead and at least show you some size comparisons just so you get some reference. So here's what would be known as a PM9 as a very small 9mm. And this particular PM9 has a stainless steel slide. It's also available in a C series, and it's made by Carr. And then the one everybody, of course, always talks about, the Glock 43, which is also a 9mm. If I put these things up side by side, now the Carr has a flush magazine, and of course you could do a flush magazine in the DB9, so that kind of skews it a little bit. But if you look at the back of them, that kind of gives you an example right across here where they would fit. The Glock is noticeably taller, and the Carr and the DB9 are close to each other. The DB9 curves a little bit at the back, the Carr's flat. But from a height perspective, they're relatively close. From a length perspective, if I get them all lined up beaver tail to beaver tail, you can see that the Glock is the longest, and then the DB9, and then the Carr. But let me stack them up on their end, which is another way to look at it. And this is a little tougher to do with the three of them. But if I get them to stand up, you'll see again, the Glock is larger. The DB9 is, the beaver tail sticks out a little further than the Carr. But they're really close and comparable. So from a size perspective, the DB9 and the Carr kind of come in close, and the Glock is just bigger in every dimension. It was also, you know, we noted that it was heavier. And from a thickness perspective, now this Carr does have a grip sleeve on it, that Hammer put on the gun. If the grip sleeve was off it, you'd find that the DB9 and the Carr are close. The DB9 is actually a little bit thinner. It's thinner of the whole bunch, and the Glock is thicker than any of them. So it's a very small gun and competes very closely with other small guns in the territory, but in 9mm caliber. So if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell if you do. Check us out on Facebook and Patreon, and have a great day. Thank you.